Welcome back to the Happy Hippie Podcast. This is the show where we talk about ways to just increase your life's happiness, whether that's working on your mind, your body, or your soul. We deep dive into different wellness practices, techniques, and things that can change your mindset and light you up to just contribute to bringing you a happier life here, right now. If you're new here, welcome to the show. My name is Amanda McCormack. I'm your host. I am a yoga teacher, personal trainer, and a nutrition coach. This episode is going to be a little bit more of a quick chat. I want to make it like a 10-minute bite-sized episode because I'm going to add on to it a meditation. So this is a 2-part episode. It's going to be like, I'm hoping. I always say 10, but it's going to be like when you're running late. I'm like, I'm going to be 10 minutes, but it's actually like a little closer to 12 to 15. We'll see what this comes out to be, but it's going to be a short episode, almost like a little bit of a motivational talk to help get you out of a little bit of a rut, change your mindset, help you feel good. And then I'm actually going to be giving you a practice to do to help with that. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling like you can't get things done, or you have an endless to-do list, or maybe there's so many things happening in your life at the moment and you just need to step back, this episode, we're going to unpack that a little bit. We're going to be talking about productivity, self-worth, taking action, getting rid of stagnation, how to show up consistently over showing up perfect, and kind of reframing productivity and your self-worth. So hopefully this can help you if you're in a little bit of a rut. Because sometimes we just have those days where it could be a week where I'm feeling like I'm on top of the world, and then a random day I just have a little bit of anxiety or overwhelm, and maybe a little dash of existential crisis thrown in there, one of those days, and things just seem really tough, or things I've been doing daily can seem a little bit harder to do. So maybe save this episode or download it. You can send it to a friend. If it's going to be a quick, almost pick me up. We're going to be working on that guilt, that productivity guilt, and talking a little bit just about anxiety and overwhelm and like ways to work with it. But it's going to be short and bite-sized. If you want a deeper dived episode about this, or we just go more into the science of it or anything like that, let me know if this is a topic that interests you, and we can totally do that. I also have episodes on procrastination, working through to-do lists, and mastering productivity, and some of my favorite productivity tools. So I will make sure to link those episodes in the description if you want to kind of go more into this topic. And again, there will be a meditation on the next episode. So if you check wherever you're listening to this, the next episode uploaded is going to be a 10-minute meditation to help you with this topic. So make sure to like both of them, save them, send them to a friend, and let's get into today's episode. I felt like this was also a good time to do this episode, no matter what you're feeling or what you're going through, because it's March. And I feel like at this point, sometimes in January we get all hyped up, setting goals and talking about what we're going to be doing the next year, or getting new habits or whatever. And it could be so fun to like buy a planner and put everything in it and then maybe do it for a week or so, and then it starts to fall off. Or you set some goals in January and you're not touching them that much, and it could hit you in a negative way where it makes you feel bad about yourself, which are two totally separate things. So that's what we're going to come to like a conclusion of in this episode, is that your productivity doesn't equal your self-worth, which is very normal to think it might, or have those feelings, or know that's where overwhelm and anxiety can come from. We've been basically conditioned that time is money and every waking moment of our lives we need to be doing something, and taking time to do things for yourself, or doing things that literally have no effect for other people or the world, or in a sense, we don't have time for it. So I know personally, I grew up in a household where my parents kind of not like knowingly, it's more of like the way that they work their jobs and things. I've been taught like any free moment that my parents had that they could take like overtime and work, they would do it. My mom would like work summers as a school teacher, like all that free time, if they could like turn it into money, they would. And I always I took that on too. Like when I started working jobs, I would always like apply for like overtime shifts or like extra shifts, thinking it would bring in more money, and I would get like really burnt out. Or whenever my mom is like, sorry to be roasting my mother in this episode. Sorry, Mom. She doesn't listen to my podcast anyway. I'd be sending the link, but I know she doesn't listen, so it's okay. Sometimes if she's like off, she'll be walking around the house talking about like in a very negative, sometimes her self-talk like comes out, and it's a lot easier to see these things in other people than yourself. So sometimes when I hear my mom doing these things, I like reflect. I'm like, ooh, am I doing that? but she'll like walk around and be talking about like, she's like, oh, I'm so lazy today. Like all I've done is like read my book and watch TV. And I'm like, that's a good thing. Like you can have these days, but there's something in us that's been ingrained in us that makes us feel guilty for doing these things, you know? And it's like, I hear it, I see it, the world kind of pushes it out to you. And we have to remember that that's not true. The main thing I want to talk about is how productivity and self-care are looked at as two different things, two different sides of a coin, and we rarely acknowledge the self-care side. When I look at this, I see a very similar pattern to how I see a lot of people approach fitness and exercise, which is where we need to restrict ourselves with our food and push ourselves to exercise as much as we can 7 days a week. Harder the better, the more you sweat the better, and that's how you get results. When in reality, you actually need time for your body to turn your nutrition into fuel, and you need your body to have time to recover and let your muscles adapt and grow stronger. That's where the change happens, not when you're actually pushing yourself really hard. Like you need the balance of recovery and the movement to actually create a change, a difference to get you to your goal. And I find it's very similar when it comes to setting goals for ourselves and productivity, where when we don't fill our cup, when we don't take time for our wellness practices, our self-care and things like that, it actually topples over into how we perform, how we view things, how our mind gets anxious and full of overwhelm. An example actually happened today. I wasn't going to actually put this in the episode because this wasn't part of the episode, but it happened today and I was like, boom, this is the topic we're talking about. So this morning I ended up staying in bed a little bit longer, my favorite thing to do, and it's too much longer. Didn't have time to make breakfast, so I grabbed like this like Fiber One granola bar. And I know my stuff, man. I know that I need to eat protein in the morning. I need to eat food that's going to help with my hormones. It's going to help balance my blood sugar, or else I crash and I just like don't feel good. Man, I fully had headaches at work. I ended up messing up on something and I had brain fog. And that's why I messed up on the thing I did. And I literally was able to ground myself and be like, girl, it's because you didn't prioritize yourself and make time for breakfast. And as lame and cliche as it sounds, it's really true. Making time to do these things, like your wellness practices, your yoga practice, whatever it is for you, your meditation, making that time is actually going to affect your work. So yeah, you may think, oh no, I don't have time to go to that workout class. I need to do my work. I've noticed there's been times where I've been planning on going to a workout class and I'll skip it so I can sleep in or so I can get up really quickly and do my work. And I approach my work from a more frazzled point of view. So the first thing I would do is like check in on yourself. If you're feeling overwhelmed and anxious with your to-do list, check in to see, are you doing your wellness practices? Are you filling your own cup? Are you taking care of yourself? Those are the things that you should actually focus on first, that are going to help you out, that are going to calm you down, because the overwhelm is coming from just looking at the productivity work and looking at what you have to get done and the habits you're not doing, and that feeling of it coming crashing down on you and you have all this stuff going on in no time. You can soothe that out by taking care of yourself, by indulging in your practices. So check in and see, are you actually doing things like your yoga practice or maybe whatever form of movement calls for you? Are you eating meals? Are you making the time maybe to make those meals? Like, do you need maybe like 20 minutes of a meal prep at the beginning of the week to ensure you have things ready for you? Like, for example, if I want to sleep in later, maybe I should have some grab and go options that are actually going to fuel me, you know? And I didn't have those. I didn't have time to make food, but I didn't have anything else. So I grabbed what I could and it affected me. But maybe if I want to keep sleeping in a little later, like let's say that's a goal of mine, which it's not, but let's say it is, I need to prepare for that. So maybe stepping back and looking at how you can fuel yourself, because it's going to affect and pour over. And it's also very important. So not just in your work life, but if you're not taking care of yourself, it's going to reflect in the way you take care of others. It's going to reflect in your relationships. If you're a mom, taking care of yourself, I can't speak, I'm not a mom, but I just know that like taking care of yourself, even if it's like a 2-minute time of slot, like you make during your day, like in the morning, to maybe just do breathing for a minute, that can help when you take care of others. Same thing if you have anyone else in your house you take care of, or if you're in a profession where you're dealing with people, maybe you find yourself more frustrated. But by filling your own cup, you take the time to ground yourself and take care of yourself, and it's going to reflect. So that is my first tip, and I think the most important tip out of my entire like little speech, besides the fact that we need to almost unlearn the idea, I'd say, that our productivity is our self-worth. Our productivity is our biggest priority. Yes, I'm not speaking from like a point of view where I'm like ignorant and I'm like, nah, don't do your work, like focus on yourself. But there really is a balance, and your work is almost compromised when you don't have that balance. So if you're feeling that overwhelm, that anxiety, sometimes just do an audit on yourself and be like, okay, this week, what did I leave out? Maybe just today, if I'm feeling kind of crummy today with everything, what was the thing that maybe made the difference? And how in the future can I change that? Remembering that our feelings and our emotions are indicators. Think of it like a compass. So when they're pointing in the direction you don't want to go in, they're showing you, hey, maybe we need to pivot. And if they're pointing in a direction where you're feeling good and feeling great about something, or your body's feeling good and responding, then it's like, we should do more of this. So your emotions are an awesome guidance system. The way you feel, your body's response, it's showing you either what you want or what you don't want, what you need more of, and maybe what you need a little less of, or to change and pivot your focus. So that is the most important thing I want you to take away from this episode today. That was probably the biggest point I think I wanted to make, is just making sure you're putting the time in for yourself, especially if you maybe have kids or other people that you're caring for. Just know that your own personal productivity and then how you're also coming off into the world is affected by what you put into yourself. The second thing I wanted to talk about a bit was how consistency is so much better than perfectionism. And I've talked about this before in other episodes, but it's so important to bring up because sometimes I find I will put all this stuff into my planner and then I'll pick out like the easier projects, or like I won't deep dive into something because I feel I need to be at a certain level to do it, or I want to do it when I have more time, or whatever excuse. Like you can make up tons of excuses for these things. And I find myself looking at a project and being like, I ignore it. And this can also be an example for habits or anything. So if you're rushing around in the morning, and this is something that I do sometimes where I tell myself I don't have time to do yoga. Like I literally am like too busy right now. Truly, as like I feel like some of the stuff I say is corny, but like it really works if you lean into it. Like I promise, doing like a 5-minute stretch in the morning is so much better than literally not doing it at all, because then it becomes a habit to not do it, you know, and then you push it aside and it's going to be so much harder for you to even get into. I found specifically with the yoga, an example is I was doing like a 5-minute stretch in the morning, and that's what I would call it because it wasn't like a yoga practice. And I felt like I was kind of disconnecting from my yoga practice because I was like, I do not have time to do like an actual like sitting down, grounding myself, warm up into movements, whatever, in the morning. And actually I did. I just had to make it a lot smaller. So I would get up and I would make myself like sit on the mat, and I would do like a grounding moment where I would like feel my body on the mat. I would like do a releasing kind of thing where I would like let my shoulders sink, relaxing my jaw, do a mini breath work. Then I would get up, do some really small like hip circle movements, warming up my wrist. I'd go up into a down dog, walk my feet out, like stretch out my calves, walk up to a big forward fold, stand up, do some like side bends, and maybe like one round of a sun salutation. That stuff makes me feel so good. I fully got a mini moment of meditation. I got breath work in. I got moving around all the joints and things that I'm going to use in the day. I got a back stretch, a leg stretch, upper body. And then I even did the sun salutation. So now my heart rate is up, but I'm not like sweaty, you know, so I'm not like gross for the day. Perfect. And it took me like 4 minutes to do. So I started doing that, and it just made it a lot easier for me to like the next week, if I was, because I did that when I was in a rut. The next week I was able to do like full yoga classes because I got myself into that groove. So showing up consistently over being perfect, however you're looking at something and putting it off because you really don't think you have the time, see how you can make it a lot more bite-sized. The example I like to use is like, remember when Squidward was biting into the Krabby Patty and he like bit at it with his little teeth? He was like, eh. Like, you know, I'm trying to do like a teeth biting sound, but it's not working. But that little nibble, that's what you have to do. You have to like bite into it really small. What's something you can do that's like a small bite-sized version of the habit you're trying to get? I remember in Atomic Habits, because this stuff does come from it, but it's also just like something so easy you can do every day. I remember he was saying like a tip would be like to drive to the gym and like walk on the treadmill for 10 minutes and then go home, because it's better than going in there and not doing anything. And you can take that mindset and do it in a lot of other ways. So being consistent over being perfect is going to help you out so much, even in the project way of thinking, because besides habits, sometimes looking at my workload, I get overwhelmed and I don't think I'm in the right spot right now to do this project. I don't think I have enough time. I want to give it more of a effort or something like that. I find that looking at the project, and almost like the episode I did on productivity, which I said I'll link below, looking at it from like the big point of view and then breaking it down from like a monthly to weekly to daily point of view, like breaking down my project into maybe today I can literally just make a page in my planner about this project. I don't have to do it. I can just make the template, spend 10 minutes making the template of what I'm going to do for this project. And then in 2 days from now, I can start doing research on the project before jumping into it or anything. And then my next step can be emailing somebody, like a small email. So I'm breaking it down into little baby pieces over the week, and that's actually going to get me so much further than not doing anything. And that leads me into my final point of the episode, is taking these little baby actions. Action is going to get rid of that stagnation, that like crippling overwhelm, the anxiety where you have so much to do that you almost get paralyzed and don't do anything. Taking action is what's going to get rid of it. And it doesn't have to be the scary leap. It doesn't have to be a big activity that you have to do, but it can be like what I just said, doing a 2-minute stretch in the morning, making a 1-minute meditation, literally just setting up a page in your planner, or just looking at something and sending an email, like a tiny thing. Like it will really help you get over that big feeling you have, because I know how hard it is when you feel like paralyzed by a task. I'm not trying to dismiss it. I'm not saying just get the thing done. Duh. Like making it so tiny, so bite-sized, the Squidward bite. Take that away from this episode, something so small that you can do. And maybe it's not even towards the project. Maybe the small thing that you're doing can be towards yourself. And again, focusing on filling your cup. Maybe that's what you need right now, is to lean more into doing something small for yourself instead of the project. And that can topple over and help you with the bigger thing. Okay, so that was the last thing, but I do have one baby tip that's also good to do. It's almost like auditing your checklist. So sometimes maybe you're not checking things off, or maybe you feel like you have too many things to do and you're not getting them done week by week. Maybe looking at the list, there can be something you're not being realistic about, and there's nothing to be upset with about that. It's a chance to almost pivot and change the plan a little bit. So for example, if you're telling yourself, I'm going to post 3 YouTube videos a week, and you're finding yourself struggling to even post one, maybe it's actually an awesome thing that you realize that, and you can just stick to posting 1 a week. So checking in on maybe your habits, maybe you're being unrealistic with the amount of habits you have to do every day. You want to wake up and like do a whole skincare routine and drink bone broth and then go to the gym and then come back and do a meditation and then sit in front of the red lights and then do this and make your breakfast and then do the, maybe realistically only 2 things are going to fit in your routine, So using what's not working as a roadmap to create what can work for you is something that has helped me as well. And think of it like as a sign, like it's a good way to see how you can change your routine. So that is it. Again, I hope this episode can help you, remembering that caring for yourself, maybe even taking a moment to step away from your work and finding something that lights you up, will always bring you back to that mindset that you need to be in. If you really do need something else, I'll be putting up a meditation. You can check that out next. It's going to be a meditation for like overwhelm, anxiety, procrastination, and just remembering your worth and how it's not related to your productivity. So feel free to check that out. I'll link it below, but it should just be the next episode in chronological order in our podcast series. Thank you so much for listening. Feel free, as usual, to DM me on Instagram, Happy Holistic Hippie. You can follow there as well to check up on new updates for the show and all that good stuff, because I have a few things I'll be launching soon. We're going to be doing some group programs, and I will be hosting a retreat in the future, not right now, but I'm going to be teasing a little bit about that retreat. So stay tuned. Oh yeah, enjoy your day. Bye.